Welcome to the Seahawkers podcast with your hosts, Adam Emmert.
How many times does somebody have to step out of bounds before they're out of bounds? Apparently it's more than 3.
And Brandon Schultz.
I would not use the word dying with Procise. Let's put out positive words around Procise and his health.
Go Hawks!
This is episode 226 of the Seahawkers podcast. I'm Brandon Schultz of the Military Seahawkers. And joining me, my good buddy, Montana Seahawker, Adam Emmert.
Hey, man, it's good to be talking to you here while we, I guess we're in the middle of a L.A. sandwich, huh?
We are.
L.A. Chargers and then L.A. Rams coming up here?
I don't know if I like the L.A. sandwich.
I hate the L.A. sandwich. I hope that we can get through this episode, talk a little bit about what happened in Seattle with the Chargers, and then a little bit of what's going to happen here with the L.A. Rams down on the neutral field. I hope by the end of it, we can conclude we're not going to go 0 for L.A. this year.
That feels like a good plan to me. Let's get into it with the Chargers. Let's talk about Russell Wilson and his game against the Chargers and what needs to happen in the weeks moving forward. And, of course, we'll get into some do better and better at life, Adam.
Oh, yeah. You can't leave that stuff out.
No, it just wouldn't be our regular show.
I think we'd get fired if we left that section out, actually. And, you know, in really great discussions on things like tape and which is the best.
Yes. Well, let's talk about this last second loss to the Chargers. They lose another one at home. They're now 1-2 at home, and they've lost by a combined 10 points to the 8-1 Rams and the 6-2 Chargers. Have we lost our home field advantage? Will the Seahawks ever win a home field game again?
Well, I mean, I believe I read earlier this week that we've lost 6 of our last 8 at home.
Yeah.
Something along those lines. I mean, it's not a good record. I don't understand where the home field advantage went. And I do not blame the 12s one bit. I mean, I listened to crowd noise that was top notch for every home game so far this season and all through last season too, even with the struggles that were going on. So I don't really know what to attribute that to, but they do seem to play better on the road these days.
I think it has a lot to do with the opponents, right?
It's a solid enough theory.
Well, with the Rams, I don't know if the crowd noise was quite there.
It was there. I watched the game. I heard it. So I'm just gonna come out and say straight up false. That is false. And whoever's trying to spread that narrative is spreading false stuff. Don't do that.
Okay.
No, I'm not accusing you. I'm just saying whoever tried to put that bug in your ear, man. Yeah.
For people who are at the games, I think there's people that go to every game that can tell the difference when it's, totally amped up and the crowd is hyped. I've been to preseason games where the crowd is hyped, and I know that, yeah, this is pretty loud, but it's not as loud as it gets during the regular season. There's varying degrees of loud noise.
Okay, that's fine. I'll accept that. But that's like saying the crowd was giving a C level performance. Uh-huh. And what we're parsing here then, I think, is A+, A, and A- type performances.
Yeah, maybe B+.
Negative. We're not going into a whole nother grade. It's all good. It's all good. I'm not going to let anybody sit here and try to take the efforts of the 12s and paint them in a light that's not flattering, because it's not right. It's not right.
So you mentioned going back to last season. You're the one guy who doesn't like to go back to previous seasons because they're different teams. But okay, so you go back to what? Washington is when it all started. They lose against Washington. They lose against Atlanta. They beat the Eagles, and then they lose to the Rams and the Cardinals.
Yeah.
Which the Cardinals always seem to have our number at the end of the season at our home field.
That was the stupidest game ever.
Yeah.
Gosh. Almost as stupid as this last game against Chargers.
We've had some stupid games. I mean, the Rams game was winnable. This game was winnable.
Yep.
A lot of times we like to go back and kind of attribute, overall, was it a coaching loss? Was it a field goal kicker loss? Was it another player?
Offensive coordinator loss. Russell Wilson loss. Was it a defensive back loss? Wherever it is that you can kind of focus on and be like, to me, that's the area that really cost them the game.
We haven't had too many Russell Wilson losses. Mm-hmm. And I think this game against the Chargers was a Russell Wilson loss.
This, out of all the games that we've had so far this year, I look at this game and I see a little bit here, a little bit there. I mean, this is kind of across the board. I'm not sure that I have that one area that I look at and say, this was that loss. I mean, Russell's pick was bad, no doubt. And
I'm not even talking about the
four
pick.
sacks.
I'm talking about
the 4 sacks. Yeah.
I'm talking about, the sacks and then missing a wide open David Moore in the third quarter where he just came up short. Mm-hmm. If he hits Moore in stride, that's a touchdown. And they're right in it going into the fourth quarter.
Yeah, missing whoever. I think it was Lockett on the slant on like 3rd and 6.
Yeah.
Earlier in the game. I think that was in the second quarter.
That was in the second, yeah.
He wasn't sharp. Let's be honest. This was not his sharpest effort.
That was what an average quarterback looks like. I know we're not used to seeing that, but that is what an average quarterback will give you on any NFL Sunday. And I'm not used to seeing that from Russell Wilson.
Yeah, I mean, that was a Matt Ryan-y kind of performance. Some great throws, moves the ball up and down the field a bit, but makes that one critical mistake. And really, Russell made 3 critical mistakes. I really feel missing those 2 passes on 3rd down. Mm-hmm. Those were gigantic. And then obviously the pick. And we talked about it a little bit on the quick reaction show, what happened there on the pick and having the DB come off the guy in the slot to undercut the route. I still believe that was something that Gus Bradley knew tendencies about Russell Wilson, had an idea of where they were going to go in that situation, where Russell likes to go in that situation. And that was a called thing. And that was really a Gus Bradley pick.
Going back and looking at it, I think Russell needed to recognize that the defender was keeping an eye on him. And
they always do, though.
And maybe Russell didn't allow it quite enough time for the play to develop to go at the back shoulder. Because if that receiver just for another split second, if he gets that DB's hips turned, the threat of going downfield for the other receiver, the inside receiver, because that was what was supposed to happen. The inside receiver was supposed to carry downfield farther and take that defender with him. And so Russell could throw the back shoulder there.
Yeah, okay, so a couple things here. Number one, if you waited even longer, the DB would be sitting on that ball even harder by the time that it got there.
Well, if Russell stares it down, it does. But if Russell...
Secondly, it's a timing play.
He can throw to either one of those guys.
Second, it's a timing play. Thirdly, that defender had no intention of staying with the inside receiver at any point during that play. That was his couple steps of backpedal. That was all for disguise. That was a called coverage.
Well, then why wouldn't you go to Baldwin then if that receiver was going to jump that route?
Because people have habits, even quarterbacks. And that's a route and a throw and something that Russell runs often. I'm sure it's his first read. And I'm sure that's one of the first dudes to really jump the ball like that coming off the other receiver. I can't recall that happening to Russell for, years. Usually if he throws a pick, he's throwing it into 2 or 3 guys draped all over somebody, and he's just got a little too much faith in somebody going up and getting a jump ball. That's why he doesn't throw pick sixes all that often. It's because guys don't jump routes like that on him very, very often. I truly believe that was a called situation from Gus Bradley. It certainly could be avoided if you do, as you say, wait longer and then maybe hit Baldwin, but you were never going to hit the intended receiver on that play.
Well, the other pick six this year was the one with Rashad Penny on kind of in a similar position on the field. Yep. But he didn't sell the route well enough, and it was easy for the DB to see where he was going, and maybe another tendency play too. So maybe Russell's given a little bit too much away on film.
Well, if you play in the league for 6-7 years, there's film of you doing everything under the sun. Like, there are no more secrets. Everybody knows exactly who you are. That's why players like Tom Brady and Drew Brees and guys of that ilk who have been doing this, for basically since dinosaurs walked the earth, the fact that they are still able to be effective and go out there with all the tape in the world out there on them, everybody knows what they're doing, is remarkable. So you can get got every now and then, but I think more alarming about Russell's play, rather than the picks, to me, were the sacks. Those were some drive killers and really poor decisions.
What was it, the first one where Mike Davis just absolutely whiffed on his block and Russell went down, and that was a drive killer. I don't know if Chris Carson in that situation, if he's really that much better of a pass blocker than Mike Davis. I don't know if that was necessarily a difference in this game.
I don't know. I think I might be better than Mike Davis in pass blocking, judging by that play. That one
judging
was
by
terrible.
that play, yeah, you got to get your hands on it, dude.
Yeah, I mean, Russell knows, so that one there, Russell is called to protection, right? And he understands that Mike Davis is going to be picking up that blitzer, and he expects you to do your job, and he didn't do his job. But some of the later sacks where he really did just hold on to the ball for too damn long and tried to retreat back rather than step up in the pocket. He had a couple opportunities to do that too on those plays. There comes a point, man, I love your playmaking ability and your ability to take those scribble plays and turn them into magic.
But check it down.
Check it down. Get it out of your hand. Don't take a sack. And then we also saw Phil Rivers, where when he takes a sack, it's not a 13, 14, 16-yard sack. It's a 3-yard sack.
Right, because he's stepping up into the pocket and holding on to the ball.
Taking your medicine.
Yeah.
So that is an area of Russell's game that he can become better at. And he has been better over the majority of the course of the season. After those first couple games that people were really on his case, this was just kind of almost like a regression for a game in that area.
Yeah, I think, we talk about it's not always a steady progression to awesome. After last year, with all the scribble plays, I feel like this is kind of a get right year for Russell. And I see him doing a lot more work inside the pocket this year. Well, especially than compared to last year. But I think that this is a focus for him now. And I think maybe Brian Schottenheimer being part of the team has something to do with that now.
I agree. And I also agree with your assessment that it is getting better. I definitely believe that Russell had to kind of shake off some David Carr disease this year. And I think he's doing a good job of it overall.
Russell Wilson was credited with the most pressures, of even more than any of his offensive linemen. 5 pressures credited to Russell, 4 to J.R. Sweezy, and then you had Officiating with 3. So,
wait, so did he run into the defender? Is that how he gets credited with a pressure?
I think they credit it from holding on to it too long.
I didn't know that they counted pressures on quarterbacks like that.
Yeah,
that's news to me.
It's interesting. Yeah, 21 pressures overall, and 5 of them credited to Russell.
Huh? I had no idea.
Well, it makes sense. I mean, if the offensive lineman's doing his job, but Russell's just holding on to the ball too long, who do you give it to? I mean, pressure did happen, and you can't blame a lineman,
right?
So
yeah, no, I get it. I just sometimes I learn new things,
On defense, though, another place, I think some of the blame has to go to the defense, even though they played really well in the second half, keeping the Chargers offense to no points. But 11 explosive plays for the Chargers. And explosive plays are when it's a 16-yard or more pass, a 12-yard or more run. And another thing we didn't see from them is turnovers, which they'd been consistently getting every game, and a big part of the reason why they've had success to this point of the season.
Well, we were wondering a little bit, I don't know, maybe a show or two ago, whether or not the turnovers can be a sustainable thing. I mean, because they kind of come in bunches and they feel a little unpredictable. It was certainly a bummer to not get any turnovers, but also understand that Phil Rivers doesn't throw a bunch of picks either. So your opportunities are going to be limited. Now, one thing I did like from the defense is on tackles and things of that nature, they are going after the football. So that's all you can do is try to give yourself the opportunity to create a turnover. They didn't manage to this game, so that hurt. But the explosive plays, I mean, we talked about it in the preview show going into the Chargers game. That's how this whole Chargers offense operates. Big explosive chunk plays down the field to open up the field and then run the ball late and win the game. And they were unable to stop that early in the game. They managed to put the clamps on it a little bit better in the second half. But at the end of the day, I have a hard time hanging the L around the defense's neck, mainly because if you only give up 19 points as a unit at home, you should win that game.
But there were so many big plays, and that's where I go back to. You can't, as a defense, give up a 52-yard pass on 3rd and 15, especially when you have the momentum of them doing having to delay a game and backing them up. The crowd's going crazy, and then you let Keenan Allen get behind you for a huge pass.
Out of every team in the league, I think that I have the least amount of confidence in the Seattle Seahawks as a unit to stop somebody on 3rd and freaking long. I see 3rd and 16. I'm like, crap, we're giving this up. It just feels like a recurring theme that has been with this team since back in 2012 when they lost in freaking Atlanta, when they had a Matt Ryan and company backed up on 3rd and forever with 10 seconds to go in the game, and somehow they give it up all the way to Matt Bryant field goal range. It just seems like a recurring theme. I don't understand it, especially when your mantra as a defensive backs coach and the thing that Pete Carroll preaches to his DBs, don't let anything over the top of you. I don't understand this.
Well, let's go ahead and look at the stats on 3rd down, because I am curious about this. It does feel, just as a Seahawks fan and having dealt with it so many times over the years of big 3rd downs and they give them up, maybe that's what we need to measure it in, is big time 3rd downs instead of just, your average 3rd and long.
I'm not even talking about, critical moments. I'm just talking about 3rd and long. They're actually pretty good on 3rd and normal stuff. That's why it's so frustrating to see him give up 3rd and longs.
You'd rather have it be 3rd and 4. Yeah. Looking at the team opponent 3rd downs per game, Seattle is holding their opponents to about 11 3rd downs per game. And that's good for number 2 in the league. They're tied with New Orleans.
Okay.
If you go at 3rd down conversions per game, they're at 4, which is number 2 in the league. So they're holding people to a fewer number of 3rd downs. And when they do, they're actually under, so that would be under 50% with only 4 3rd down conversions per game. Now, it doesn't break it out in 3rd and the amount of yardage. It feels like if it's a 3rd and long that they're doomed.
I have no confidence in it. I don't understand. Look, take Gus Bradley's strategy, right? Where he just takes everybody and puts them 10 yards back in the picket fence thing. Uh-huh. At first I thought it was kind of stupid when I was seeing it on the screen. It's that just doesn't look good. But yeah, let's do that. It seems to work.
That way they're going to throw it short.
Just don't give up a 54-yard pass in that situation, which then puts you on your heels, which then they just hand the ball to Melvin Gordon, and boom, boom, 2 plays in the end zone.
After having him back at 3rd and 15 and looking like a stop was imminent.
So frustrating.
We also have the dude who stepped out of bounds. I'm still bummed about that.
You're talking about the missed touchdown call?
Yeah, the one to Mike Williams where he dances all over the sideline. The more video I see of that, the more I'm concerned that he absolutely was out of bounds.
You're concerned about the fact of the absolute certainty that he absolutely 100% on video replay, totally conclusively, stepped out of bounds? That sort of concern?
It's concerning to me how that happens. How does that happen? I don't know. How does that call get missed?
I don't know. Out of the big calls that went against the Seahawks that were poor calls, I believe there were 3 that I can think of off the top of my head. If I were to rank them, that's the one I put the lowest. Because honestly, in that moment, I was like, well, might be better that they just scored quickly here so we can get the ball back.
Right.
I did feel that way in the moment.
Sure.
I mean, I was frustrated because I was like, how many times does somebody have to step out of bounds before they're out of bounds? Apparently, it's more than 3. So now that I know that, the interpretation of the rules, I don't understand that one for the life of me. Especially when you get the former referee on the telecast on there saying, oh, yeah, no, he's out of bounds. His heel touches down right there. There's nothing impeding your view. It's not a funky angle. It's just, look, heel's on the ground and it's in the white. I'm sorry his shoes are the same color as the sidelines, but we've had some weird, wiggy, out-of-bound calls for touchdowns this season. Thinking back to the Broncos game and their feathered paint job on the sidelines that gives people touchdowns. I don't understand how suddenly, when it comes to playing the Seahawks, you can catch touchdowns while being out of bounds.
Well, and from some people's perspective, too, they looked at that and they said, well, it is hard to tell whether or not his heel went all the way down onto the line or if he, had his foot up just enough that that his heel didn't actually step out of bounds.
Pulse catfish!
Watch it in real time.
Yeah.
Watch it in real time, because if you slow it down, you can talk yourself out of that. Another thing that I watched in real time, was the pass interference on David Moore. And in real time, I can see how the officials made that call.
I can't.
It does look like he kind of hip checks him a little bit from that spot. It's super ticky-tack, but I can kind of see why they would...
No.
Why at full speed they would see that and go, oh yeah, I'll throw the flag on that.
No. I'm sorry. I'm going to push back hard on this one. Out of all three of those calls, if I were to rank them, that one was the most egregious to me. The guy does everything in the rules that you're supposed to do. Everything.
Yeah.
And not only that, like... if David Moore had stuck his hands out in any way towards the defender to push him, nudge him, stop him, impede his progress, anything like that, or even just if he had gotten his hands on the DB in any way, shape, or form, like even faking as if he's going to go for the reception, had touched the DB, I would buy your argument. Yes, in real time.
It was so well executed, Adam. The officials had to call it.
Yeah, right. He runs a route, has the right to the space, turns, faces the quarterback, puts his hands up in front of him as if to receive a pass.
Watching it in real time, the hands look like it came out after the ball did. It was close.
I wholeheartedly disagree. I know every single team in the league runs more egregious pick plays than that.
Oh, I know.
No, and not only that, it feels like it was within the 5 yards, was it not?
But the officials have to call it against Seattle at least once a game. It's part of the rule book.
There's a league mandate that says everybody can run pick plays except for the Seattle Seahawks. So when they do anything that even comes close to resembling it, you'll throw the flag and kill a drive.
Steve Davies said another drive killing penalty. Says on our drive right before the one where David Moore got the offensive pass interference, there was a pass to Moore on third down, and the defense prevented him from turning around to catch it. No PI, killed that drive.
Yeah, that one's a little tougher.
That's what I think that's why I got in the postgame show, we were talking about the PI on Tyler Lockett. I was surprised that they actually called that in that particular moment because they had let things like that go all game. And I don't have a problem if consistently you're allowing the DBs and the receivers to fight it out, if you're calling it consistently. And I thought that was one of the areas where they called it consistently. They allowed those guys to be physical on the outside, and you just go, okay, if that's how it's going to be, then we get to be physical too. And they just didn't call it up until the end.
If I'm a Chargers fan, I have a problem with the call, no doubt about it. But by rule, that I guess the difference between if I'm a Chargers fan being upset with that call and as a Seahawks fan being frustrated with David Moore being called for offensive pass interference is that David Moore,
they're totally different.
No, is one of them actually did not commit the penalty.
Right.
Okay. Whereas the pass interference that was called on Tyler Lockett.
Yeah, it's a judgment.
It wasn't a judgment. He clearly committed pass interference.
Sure.
Like, he held down Lockett's arm before the ball got there and then hit him a little bit before the ball got there. Still.
Yeah.
Like, he actually committed the foul. Like, so whether or not they've been calling it all game is, one thing. But if you actually commit the foul, I really don't have a hard time being like, yeah, no, that's the right call. And I wouldn't whine so much about that one if I'm a Chargers fan. That's all I'm saying.
After the pass interference penalty on the 1 yard line, too, you had the defensive line flinching, and J.R. Sweezy jumps and false starts and moves him back 5 yards, too. Sweezy was not happy with that play. Sounded like it was going to be a run play from the one. That would have been fun.
Yeah, that would have been fun. A number of procedural penalties on the Seahawks.
Yeah.
That's one of the areas that needs to be cleaned up. And despite the penalties called against them, they had opportunities. Like, we can sit here and complain about the officiating all day, but make the field goal. Don't doink it. There's 3 points right there. And then on the drive that was killed with the Fluker call, I believe that was the drive that Russ misses a dude on the slant, 3rd and 6. Hit the 3rd and 6 slant. He's right there.
Hit Moore over the top in the third quarter. I mean, they had their moments to make plays, and they didn't make plays when they needed to.
The plays were there, and I guess that's one of the reasons why I'm not mad at Schottenheimer after this game. I feel like he called a fine game.
It was execution.
Yeah, this was a player problem.
That's why I don't like it, but I lean more toward this being a Russell Wilson loss than anything. I expect my elite quarterback to be elite all the time.
That's fair. You can have those expectations, no doubt about it. Do you want to talk about some good things that happened in the game? Like some people that need some shine?
Oh, yeah. Well, Bobby Wagner, we talked about him in the post-game show, right?
Yeah. I have a feeling a lot of people don't listen to the post-game show that end up listening to this show. So I just want to, Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, we should make sure that he gets credit.
Yeah, he was amazing in coverage. He's amazing everywhere. He truly is a Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle. I don't know which one. Choose one, but he's amazing. He's a mutant out there, a freak. I'm sure he's had to have been asked this, right?
He's Raphael.
He's Raphael?
Yeah.
We're sure?
Who else are you going to pick?
Leonardo?
No. Yeah, no.
Yeah, no?
No.
Why not?
Russell Wilson's more of a Leonardo than Bobby Wagner.
Okay. That's fine. Well, let's see what the listeners have to say about that. Which Ninja Turtle is Bobby Wagner? These are the important things we cover in the show. See, this is why I wanted to get to B-Wags, so we can flesh out.
So we can bring in some Ninja Turtle talk.
Yes.
Let's see who else. Justin Coleman, I think, was one of the few guys that actually effectively defended a pass against Keenan Allen. So congratulations to him. Just the one pass for 16 yards on Keenan Allen.
How about Big Balls Dixon? He had himself a game. He really did help keep the Seahawks in the game by flipping field position, pinning the Chargers back deep again and again, and giving that defense an opportunity to get stops by making it a long field for the Chargers to have to cover. It was really hard for me right there to not say San Diego. I just self-edited. That was hard.
4 punts inside the 20, and 2 of those went out of bounds. And 6 attempts overall, 317 yards, average over 50 yards. His average yards per punt was 52.8, and then the net was 50. So the average returns, not real great. Yeah, 4 returns, 17 yards. Pretty good coverage overall for the team, too.
It was, and the Chargers aren't noted for having the best special teams units. So I would have to say, out of all of the 3 phases of football, I would say special teams performed the best in this game, even with the Janikowski doink.
Yeah, it was from 51 yards, and it did hit the upright.
Hit the field goals.
Got to make those. He's at his lowest field goal percentage since his rookie year.
Great. Thanks for saving that until you got to Seattle.
I think that means we're going to be good from here on out for the rest of the season.
Better be. Stop pound like one less beer before the game. Like, be just a little less wobbly.
Or one more.
You're right. Maybe he just needs to loosen it up. I don't know.
You got to find that right spot.
How many beers do you think Janikowski drinks before each game? Like how many? Like what do you think the over under is on that? 4.5?
I guess it depends afternoon or morning or evening game, right?
No, not for Janikowski. I think any time of day is a good time of day to crack a beer for that guy.
Do you seriously think he's cracking a beer on game day?
Let me put it to you this way. I wouldn't be surprised if that were the case. I wouldn't be surprised.
And I want it to be true.
I think it's 5 beers.
And it's 5?
Yeah, I think it's 5. But not like 16-ounce cans, like 12-ounce cans. Like standard, and not high-octane beer either. I think he's drinking like 5 Bud Lights and then rolling out there.
Yeah, he's not even fancy.
No, I don't see Janikowski drinking Pinky Out beer. Yeah.
Well, not even Pinky Out, but like Elysian or
Pinky Out beer.
Is that what that is?
If you can't buy it in a 24-ounce Tolly, it's Pinky Out beer.
That's how you tell?
That's how you know.
Now I know.
Ninja Turtles and beer consumption. You're welcome, people. Welcome to the Seahawks podcast.
I guess I like Pinky Out beer then. Although
I know you do.
You're
an elitist. Do
the Kirkland, like the Costco brand beers that come in the case? I mean, they're in bottles. Like, is that Pinky Out or is that?
Now you've introduced an interesting conundrum because it's got generic branding,
right,
on Pinky Out beer.
Right.
I don't know how to take that. Do you drink it from the bottle or do you pour it into a different cup?
I usually go straight from the bottle.
Okay, then I'm going to say not Pinky Out beer in that case. The generic label carries you through. Because if you buy your beer in bulk at Costco, like I'm okay with, like I'm thinking that's not Pinky Out beer.
I'm riding. See, it's just like me in real life. If I can ride the fence as much as possible, then I'm in my sweet spot. And I feel like the Kirkland beer. I'm riding the fence of pinky out beer, but yet the generic cheap beer.
So,
but
basically,
I dare not pour that into a glass, or else you're going to put me
otherwise
in. I'll be in the pinky out category.
Yeah, you've gotten a little hoity-toity then. We might not be able to be friends. So I find it interesting that our beer consumption really defines us pretty well, personality-wise. Like, you got to ride the fence. And I'm just like, I want efficient and cheap. So I'm just drinking Natty Ice. Like, that's what I'm doing. No pinky out. Basically, Joe six-packing it. So I think that's pretty funny. You know what's not funny? Having to play the Rams next week.
Yeah. We do have to play the Rams. And we got an email here says, I'm nervous about the Rams game, but we've shown that if we play well, we can go toe-to-toe with the Rams. Here's what I think needs to happen to beat the Rams. 1, the refs need to be neutral. Last week reminded me of Super Bowl 40. Number 2, Carson needs to play. If not, Davis and Penny need to step up. 3, Fluker needs to play. If not, we're going to have to be creative with our formations. Wilson needs to play like Wilson. And 4, our defense needs to play out of their minds.
Well, drop the mic because they nailed pretty much 80% of what I wanted to talk about with this Rams game. Carson not playing would be a major loss, but worries me slightly less than, say, DJ Fluker not playing. That would be something that would be very difficult to overcome because I don't know that you can roll Joey Hunt out there for an entire game and survive at right tackle or at right guard.
Against Ndamukong Suh, and I wonder if they mess around and try and put Posick.
Yeah, where the hell was Posick? How is Joey Hunt the backup right guard before Posick is?
Yeah, I don't know. Posick was inactive for that game, I think.
What, did he have, like, other plans? Like, what, could not attend? What do you mean he was inactive?
I don't know. He wasn't, you know how they keep guys active and they inactivate guys? Like Procise, inactive. But Joey Hunt, it kind of feels like you want to have offensive linemen as backup. But maybe, just, I guess, with Joey Hunt, they just feel like he can play all the spots. And so, I don't know, man.
Being that he can play center as well, but Posick can play center. He played center in college.
Yeah. So, I don't know what's going on.
It must be the flowing mane.
I think Daniel Weinholtz was right, though. The Fluker needs to play. And I do agree with Fluker needing to play a little bit more than Carson. I like the idea of getting Rashad Penny on the outside and, you know, similar to the way the Saints attacked the Rams last week, you know, a lot of runs on the perimeter. And I feel like Penny is the better guy to get that done on out of all the guys on the backfield.
You stole the words right out of my mouth. Alvin Kamara had himself a day against the Rams last week. And I need either Penny or, heaven forbid, Procise to be active and on the field to do an Alvin Kamara impersonation. We need that because this Rams defense, if it's vulnerable, it really is along the perimeter. Their secondary, not good. Their linebackers, mediocre at best. The strength is the interior of the defensive line. Mm-hmm. Now, we were able to run the ball down their throats in our first matchup in Seattle, so it is possible to move those guys around. I don't know if it's possible without DJ Fluker, but it is possible to do. We need Chris Carson for that. But I think you see Pete Carroll kind of setting the stage for Penny. You've kind of heard the comments this week. We need a little more out of him. He needs to bust out those big plays. I know they're in him. You know, he just needs more opportunities. The coach speak has been flowing regarding Penny.
The coach speak has been flowing with CJ Procise, too, saying that Procise is dying to play. When I think Pete Carroll needs to choose his words a little bit better when referring to things that Procise needs to do. Look,
if I'm Pete Carroll, the next thing that I could hear about CJ Procise regarding his health is that he's about to die.
That's what I'm saying. I would not use the word dying with Procise. Like, let's put out positive words around Procise and his health. Let's not use the word dying.
Okay. So what are you going to? What verb are you going to put in there? Otherwise,
he's fired up. He's fired up to play. He's not dying to play.
He's itching to play. Can't wait to play. Not dying.
Yeah, I don't know. Itching. It might refer to the fact that he has some kind of allergy and that has negative connotations.
Maybe he's just allergic to the football field and so can't get out on it.
I wouldn't use itching.
Okay. All right. Itching's out. That's fine. But yeah, I would love to see one of those guys, one of the speedier guys that has that pass catching ability to exploit the Rams defense, much like Alvin Kamara did. And it's something we can do. I mean, we had big plays and scored a lot of points against this Rams defense the last time around.
The Seahawks were one of the first teams to expose the fact that Marcus Peters is so hurt and giving up big plays. And the Saints took advantage of that too. And part of that's Michael Thomas, but part of it's going up against Marcus Peters. And I think Peters gave up he gave up over 200 yards and multiple touchdowns to the Saints. So if you can keep attacking Peters and getting those big plays down the field, let's throw it to some Tyler Lockett. Put him out there on Peters and see just how much you can emphasize that injury to Peters.
Well, it's a green light against any single defensive back for the Rams, right?
Except, well, the nickel corner, Roby Coleman.
I suppose so.
He's the one guy holding it down.
Yeah, he can play a little bit, but I don't look at him as like a lockdown, game-changing corner by any stretch of the imagination. You can get him.
Yeah.
I guess if I'm Russell Wilson, I'm just not terrified of any of these guys at all.
The guys that you're terrified of are the front interior guys with Aaron Donald and Ndamukong Suh, and now they have one of their rookie pass rushers that might be coming back in this game. They have the dude that they just signed from Jacksonville on the field. So now they're looking to bring the pressure from the edges, which is something that we didn't have to necessarily worry about the last time we faced the Rams. Was they weren't getting as significant pressure off the edge.
You mean Dante Buss Jr.?
Fowler?
We're worried about him?
Maybe a little.
I'm not concerned. Especially a guy trying to learn that scheme, fit in, that sort of thing. Although pass rushers, what do you have to learn for the scheme?
There's the quarterback.
Put your hands in the dirt. Yeah, sick him. Like you just point at the quarterback and say sick him. Like I guess that's more or less it. But they are a vulnerable defense. And to me, the magic number is 30 in this game. If you can hold the Rams below 30 points, and that can be 29.75 points. Like, I know you can't get like partial points, but if you could, like, just anywhere under 30, right? And the Rams, they're going to give up 30. They're averaging 33 a game.
Giving up.
Giving up.
Yeah.
So you can get your points on these guys. And especially, you go to the Coliseum, not much of a home field advantage. It is a neutral field. I feel like the Seahawks have a really good chance to be in this game. And really, you look at this last stretch of 5 games or so, 6 games, and the 2 losses now have been to the 2 LA teams, and they've been nail biters right down to the end. We're in every game with even the best teams in this league. Now it's a matter of these young players learning how to win and to step up in winning time. And this is another great opportunity for that. This game becomes a much more must-win situation considering the loss to the Chargers.
So do you think with that idea of holding them under 30, there were 2 teams that were successful at doing that. It was the Broncos and the Packers. Mm-hmm. Are there any similarities that you think you see where you can go, maybe it's just, the coverage was so tight in those games with those 2 teams that's really what impacted them, and the Seahawks should do that?
To me, it was a little more of getting pressure on Goff, and that's the one thing that does scare me a little bit. There was a distinct lack of pressure by the defense until late in the game against the Chargers. And the pass rush has been spotty at best. So it may be up to Ken Norton Jr. to take some gambles and dial up a couple extra blitzes here and there and try to get after Goff. I really feel like he's the weak link in that Rams offense. And I know by saying that, it sounds like I'm hating on Goff. Like, no, I'm just saying like Gurley's really good. The receivers are really good. Their offensive line is pretty good. Like if you're going to get them off their rhythm at all, it's Goff you have to get to.
One of the things that I was happy with coming out of the Chargers game was how they took away that check down from it. It seemed like that KJ Wright was there to cover the outlet receiver multiple times against Phillip Rivers. And I think that's important to see that going into the game now, because there's a guy that we didn't have in the game last time against the Rams was KJ Wright. He's going to be back in this game, and I think he plays that role of making sure that little outlet pass to Todd Gurley's covered.
Yeah, or to whoever it is that they decide to throw it to. The other thing, obviously, is they got to be alert for that jet sweep. They got us with that a few times the first matchup.
Chargers got us with that too.
And it is difficult to defend in the sense that it is bang bang, and if you react and bite hard on that, you've got other action that you can run off of that. It's tough to just jump it and be like, all right, I'm stopping the jet sweep. Well, okay, cool. Well, now Goff keeps the ball and hands it off to Gurley instead, or play action, and now they're striking deep down the field. It's a dangerous little formation. But Bobby Wagner, KJ Wright, and Mingo, they really do need to have their head on a swivel, because, boy, howdy, the Rams run a lot of little shallow crossing routes back and forth, running pick plays, because they're one of the teams that are allowed to. So they run them a lot.
Well, of course, yeah. And Cooper Kupp is going to be back in this game. Robert Woods having a good season. Yeah.
He's probably a really nice guy and everything. But my sports hate, for whatever reason, well, I know exactly the reason.
Yeah, he's Eastern Washington guy.
Eastern Washington, and now a Ram?
Yeah.
Yeah, my sports hate for him is high.
You're right about getting pressure on Goff, though. I mean, his numbers, the stark contrast for when he's no pressure. I mean, his Pro Football Focus grades are off the charts when he's not blitzed and when he gets no pressure. But, even when he's blitzed, he's having some good numbers. But you get pressure on him, and he's a below average quarterback. And it's just that he's not getting that much pressure put on him this year. And 78 quarterback rating when you're able to get pressure on Goff. No pressure, he's at 125.
Right. He feels a lot like a former Rams quarterback, and somebody you're familiar with, Sam Bradford. He's a guy that, if everything is on rhythm, on time, and according to plan, will just eat your lunch.
He's better than Bradford, though, as a quarterback.
Are we sure?
Yeah.
Are we sure?
Of course.
Really?
Yeah.
You don't think you could have taken a young Sam Bradford and plopped him into this Sean McVay system, and he wouldn't put up video game numbers?
I don't think so. I think Goff's better.
I wholeheartedly disagree.
Okay.
Wholeheartedly disagree.
Oh, you wholeheartedly disagree. Okay, well, then I'll back down.
Okay, well, as long as we're clear.
You've told me a couple times this show how wholeheartedly you disagree with me, and so now I'm feeling a little bit under pressure.
Today.
Yeah,
how are you this wrong?
How could I be so wrong that you have to wholeheartedly disagree with me? You can't just disagree.
You woke up on the wrong side of the bed this morning. I don't know what to tell you.
I know what I'm going to do. I'm going to go against Adam on so many different areas to see just how many times he can wholeheartedly disagree with me.
Well, I'm only up to 2. We'll see.
How much heart do you have left?
I've got so much heart. I've basically got 2 hearts. So if I've used up one, I've got a whole nother heart to wholeheartedly not agree with your nonsense today. But Goff does feel like a system quarterback. Yeah. And I feel like you could plant a lot of quarterbacks that have just take Josh Rosen and toss him in that system. I think he would be pretty dang good.
Josh Rosen?
Josh Rosen.
That guy too.
Yeah. The Silver Spoon kid in Arizona.
He's not as good as Goff either, but he's a rookie.
Only because he's not in that system.
I agree with you. I wholeheartedly agree with you that Goff does benefit from being in the Sean McVay system.
Well, good, because we saw Goff in a Jeff Fisher system, and he looked every bit as bad as Sam Bradford did in that Jeff Fisher system. So I half-heartedly give you that argument.
Someone whose heart is, I think, finally into this season with this team, Dave Bloomquist.
Yeah? Dave's finally in?
Yeah, he says, okay, here's the deal. We win both the Niners games, the Cardinals game, and the Packers game. We lose the Rams game and the Chiefs game. That puts us at 8 wins, 6 losses. That means we must beat the Vikings and we must beat the Panthers. Panthers should still make the playoffs. We knock out the Packers and hope the Skins can't overcome their injuries. That leaves the Vikings as the most critical game left for us. 10-6, and we should be in no problem. 9-7 with a loss to the Panthers might do it. 9-7 with a loss to the Vikings, and we're toast. 8-8, and we're deader than fried chicken. Go Hawks.
It's interesting. So I'm just pulling up the standings here right now because I was curious exactly where the Vikings fall. And I think 2 or 3 weeks ago, I would have agreed with this completely. But the thing that I'm worried about is I think the Vikings are winning that division. They're tied with the Bears right now, and we did lose to the Bears. And that could end up biting us in the butt late in the year.
I don't think that the Bears are going to... You think they're going to go 8-8? Better than 8-8?
Well, that's why I say the Vikings win that division, right?
Yeah.
So when I look at those standings, I'd say the Packers game might be more critical than the Vikings game because the Packers are going to be the second place team in that division.
Can we just win all those games?
Sure. That sounds great.
Going down the stretch, the Bears have to play Detroit twice, Minnesota twice, Green Bay once, and then they have the Giants and the 49ers.
They could get to 9-10 wins.
Depends on those Detroit games, right? How those swing.
Yeah, who knows? Because Detroit's such a Jekyll and Hyde team.
Yeah, I don't know what to think about them. I think they lose the Minnesota. I think they lose... Well, they get Green Bay in Chicago. I
don't know. Is this because of your opinion about Trubisky? Is that really where this comes from? Where you're like, they're not going to go more than 8-8.
Well, I hadn't really looked at the schedule. It just seemed like they're kind of going in the wrong direction, and that they've, they were.
Well, let me ask you this real quick. Do you think Cam Newton's playing well this year?
Yeah.
I saw this the other day. Look up their stats, Cam and Mitch.
They're about the same.
Compare them. They're nearly identical.
Do you think they have enough of a lead to take on the Vikings? The Vikings are kind of up and down too.
Oh, I think the Vikings are starting to put it together.
Sure, yeah.
They don't feel up and down to me. It feels like they had a slow start, and getting Everson Griffin back, I think, is a big deal. I think their defense is starting to coalesce a little bit here. And Cousins, I don't think Cam's played that particularly well, to be honest. I think the hype train is a little out of control on that. If I'm looking at a guy that's playing above his pay grade this year, I think it's Cousins, man. He's really played great. He's got a great rapport with those receivers. The only thing they can't do is really run the ball.
I'm just looking at the playoff odds here, and maybe it's just too early to really even think about this. But that game, that loss to the Chargers, it put a pretty good hit on Seahawks' playoff chances. It went from 50%, knocked them all the way down to 35%. And nobody took a bigger hit this week with a loss than the Seahawks did. So
it's interesting that that would be a game that knocks them down that much, only because it's not only out of division, it's out of conference.
Yeah. Well, I guess if you look at the AFC, the Baltimore loss to them took a bigger hit to their chances. They took a 25% hit. I was mainly focusing on the NFC, but
how can the Ravens take a hit on their playoff odds when they were 0 to start the season?
They had them at 50% going into that last game.
50% too much.
Yeah.
Was Joe Flacco still the quarterback?
I feel like they take that into account.
Not enough. Yeah, that's for sure.
So the other teams that are kind of hanging with them, Atlanta, they're still in there at 4-4. Green Bay 3-4-1, actually ranked slightly ahead of Atlanta in terms of their playoff percentage. Philly at 32% at 4-4, and then you have the Seahawks at 35, Minnesota at 40, and then you have your other top teams with New Orleans and Carolina and the Rams, and the Bears are at 79% even.
Okay, so teams that we're rooting for losses are Eagles, Bears, well, really anybody NFC North, right? Besides the Lions.
Yeah.
Like we want all the NFC North teams to lose every week, even when they play each other. And then Panthers?
I feel like the Panthers and the Saints are getting in. I feel like both those teams are getting in. So I think the Seahawks are playing for the number 6 wild card spot right now.
Yeah, that's not an unfair evaluation. I do believe that the Panthers are going to fall off. I'm not buying it.
Well, a Seahawks win in a couple weeks would go a long way to help them make that happen.
So out of those remaining games, Panthers, Packers, or Vikings. Yeah, really, you kind of need them all.
Or as the Seahawks, you just go out and take care of your business.
Starting with the LA Rams.
Right. I don't think
this is a winnable game. This is a winnable game. Are the odds completely in our favor? Absolutely not. But you saw the Saints go out and show you the blueprint. Well, basically, the Saints just executed the blueprint that we used when we played them. It was basically the same exact blueprint.
They're able to score more points.
Not by much. Well, they ended up at 38, and we ended up at 32.
One of the significant things that this comes down to is holding the Rams to field goals when they get to the red zone. If the Seahawks can continue to be efficient, score touchdowns inside the red zone when they get the ball down there, and hold the Rams to field goals, I think it does make it a winnable game.
That and turnovers, right? Can't lose the turnover battle. And that's one of the things that we lost in the Chargers game. We lost the turnover battle. It's not so much that we couldn't create a turnover, it's that we actually turned the ball over too without creating a turnover. And
And I think it's a trade-off. If you aren't able to create any turnovers and you just stay even with them, then it emphasizes making your third downs more.
Which, when you're on schedule, the Seahawks are pretty darn good at it. I mean, they've really been great since week 3, converting on third down when you're on schedule. As much as I have no faith in the defense to stop somebody on third and long, I have no faith in the ability of the offense to convert a third and long. Like one boneheaded Sweezy play or a Fetty play, and all of a sudden the drive's just over.
Right. And you do see the team give up. I mean, we saw them run on second down and 24 in one situation. Yeah. And I see a lot of fans out there that are a little bit frustrated with the idea of the give up play.
That's not going to change, folks.
It's not going to change.
Between Shoddy and Pete Carroll, that's not changing.
Just accept the fact that when it's 3rd and 20, it's going to be a give up play. Like
anything that's over 3rd and 15, it's Dunskies. Like Schottenheimer just flips over his play call to play sheet, and it just says one thing on the back: draw.
Yeah,
and they just run a draw every time.
And the reason for that is because you don't want to drop back to pass and give up another 10-yard sack.
Well, speaking of play calling, one of the things I'd like to see a lot more of in this game is screens. I think the screen game could really be effective in this game.
And that goes back to the success of Kamara against the Rams defense.
Yep.
And I feel like the Seahawks are running that a lot more effectively this year than they have in years past.
Well, they're actually running it sometimes.
Right. Yeah. You actually have to call the play to make it a possibility, right?
Turns out. Yeah, that's how that works. Now, the Schottenheimer's doing it here and there. Like, I love it. Every time I see one, I'm like, oh, it's a screen. I get all excited.
There it is.
Yeah, and it's usually for a nice, positive chunk play. I just more of that, please. I understand. I think the hesitance to run that play is literally Russell Wilson's height, and he has a hard time getting it over the oncoming lineman.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's the biggest problem, hurdle to it. And I think that, but he does do it okay. Yeah. Let's just do it some more.
All right, Adam. Well, feeling pretty good going into this game. Not so good. I actually feel better about this Rams game than I do if we were playing Carolina right now.
Okay.
I know that sounds weird, and you're wholeheartedly going to disagree with that.
I'm going to quarter-heartedly disagree with that. Like, the Panthers seem to play us tough, and that's going to be, that one's going to be in Carolina, much like this is going to be down in L.A., but Carolina's an actual home field advantage, so.
That's what I'm saying. And that's why I feel, okay. Yeah, you're not so much in disagreement with that. I'm glad
I eighth-heartedly disagree, because the Rams are a better team, but or at least offensively. I feel going into this game, I feel meh about it. Obviously I'm predicting the Seahawks to win because I'm not co-host of a Seahawks podcast that picks against my own team. I understand there's some of those that are out there, but we don't do that here because we actually are fans of our team. So I'm going to pick a win every week. Now, do I feel super strong and confident about it this week? No, but it's there. There's a path to it.
It feels like another one of those games where it's going to come down to the last possession of the game.
You got to get 5 stops on the Rams offense throughout the game? Probably.
Yeah. Not a lot of teams can do that.
That's what good defense is these days.
5 stops.
That's how sad the league is. You can get 4 to 5 stops, you have a great defense.
We haven't really talked injuries so much apart from on the defensive side of the ball. We talked about Fluker. We talked about Carson.
Right.
Bradley McDougall. He went out Delano Hill actually played pretty well in his absence. And from what Pete Carroll said, he was practicing with the first team all week and went into this last game against the Chargers with a lot of confidence. And I think it translated.
Yeah, he did. I mean,
that was the best I've ever seen Delano Hill look on the field.
Sure. I won't take that from you, no doubt about it, or from Delano Hill. He's not Bradley McDougald, though.
Oh, no.
I think having McDougald off the field potentially for this game would be monumental, especially when you're trying to stop things over the top. I mean, Delano's a much better run stopper than he is in pass coverage, where McDougald's more well-rounded.
Yeah, I would much rather have McDougald out there in pass coverage. So when you consider the team, a volume passing team like the Rams, yeah, McDougald, more critical to have him out there.
Especially when you're facing the number one offense. This is a real clash in styles. I found some of these stats to be a little interesting. As far as total offense, the Seahawks 28th, the Rams 1. Right?
Right.
Total defense, Seahawks 4th, the Rams 21st.
Wow, they're actually that high?
Yeah.
21st?
In the passing game, we're 28th, the Rams 3rd, and then this is the only place, I guess, where things kind of equal out. Rushing the ball, we're 6th, and somehow the Rams are 1st. I know Todd Gurley got his yards late in the game against us the first go-around, but I do feel like we can keep him to manageable yardage.
Yeah.
I just don't. He's not the guy that I'm looking at being like, man, if we don't just go all in stopping Gurley, we're not going to survive. Like what the Saints did is they had 5 DBs out there, I believe, every single defensive snap and still managed to contain Gurley to a degree. And we're going to need to do something similar.
I look forward to these Rams matchups. And we got them last year. Let's get them again this year.
Right. Well, unfortunately, I'm going to be in the mill during this game. I hope that I have cell coverage in Oregon, but it's kind of out in the boondocks. So we'll see. I hope I get to see this live instead of just see scoring updates here and there. We'll see how it goes, but fingers crossed, right?
Yeah, I'll be listening to this one on the radio. So I'm counting on Rabel and the Wyman Chuckles to get me through this.
Perfect. That should make for a good road trip for you.
All right, Adam, let's get to the second half of the show. Looking at our Seahawkers podcast Pick'em leaderboard. Folks going for the Russell Wilson signed artwork. And we got Jermaine Olay hanging on to the top spot, 97 points. Legion of Earl at 96, along with Jesper Sacco. Barb's 44, Toon Hawk, and D. Weezy at 94 points.
I'm much like our favorite Seahawks team. I am up and down. I'd been on a decent run and then had a down week this last week.
Yeah, I think we tied last week again.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh, I expected you to have waxed me.
No, I picked the ones that where we each picked like 3 games really badly.
Well, maybe we picked them well, but a butterfly flapped its wings in Brazil or something and changed the whole space-time continuum. It's not our fault.
Not our fault.
That's what I'm sticking with.
Speaking of which, we didn't have anybody take the blame for this loss to the Chargers. I'm a little bit disappointed in that.
That was on me. I had left the hat in its aforementioned spot on the floor all week long, did not touch it after we had, ran 28 straight points up on the Lions the week before. Game started, and I was slow to adjust. It wasn't until the second half that I picked it back up off the floor, and that's where you saw the Seahawks get back into the game and really have a chance towards the end. So if I would have recognized the luck had run out in that spot for the hat, then and picked it up earlier, we would have won that game. So it's my fault.
Part of me feels like it was my fault because I didn't get my customary 12 flag up in its post before the game started. And so it was after the Seahawks' first drive, they got the successful touchdown. Right after I posted the flag was about the time that Mike Davis whiffed on that block and Russell Wilson got sacked.
Ooh, okay.
And it never really picked up from there. So I do wonder if I being too slow with getting the flag out there is what did it on my end.
Yeah, okay, I take it back. It's your fault. All right, maybe it was a collective effort by the podcast host here. We did this.
We screwed up.
So it's our fault.
I take back what I said about this being a Russell Wilson loss. This was a Seahawkers podcast loss.
Yeah, true fact. I can do that. I can take one for the team.
Me too.
I really wish Bruce Irvin would have taken one for the team. Like, come back to where I thought was home for him. But apparently
feels like his real home is Atlanta.
That was disappointing. Watching him get released, clear waivers, think we might have a shot at a guy who could help the pass rush. And just didn't happen.
I was curious how they'd make room for him. I suppose Calitro would have made the obvious choice because you have Jamie Martin starting to play more on the defensive line. You have Deion Jordan starting to play a little bit more, unless they're getting ready to say, you're done to Naz Jones. But Naz Jones and Poona Ford were both inactive last week. So
I think Poona was hurt.
Well, that would at least make a little bit of sense. It sounded like it was more of a game planning type thing, considering with the Chargers, they didn't, I guess, feel the need to have kind of that heavy interior presence against the Chargers, like maybe with their passing attack.
Yeah, maybe like in comparison to the Cowboys, let's say, where you'd really like to have that bulk up front, stop Zeke, and then let Dak try to beat you.
So I don't know who the move to make would be to.
Oh, you find a spot. You just find a spot.
Yeah,
could be CJ Pro size.
Yeah, they're still carrying a fullback for some reason.
Yeah, I think we can all agree. Like, I want a fullback if it's somebody like Max Strong, right?
Yeah.
I don't want a fullback on the roster if it's somebody like Trey Madden.
They're putting George Fant out there far more and seeing more success with Fant on the field than with Trey Madden. So it just makes sense that's what you do more than having Trey Madden out there.
Absolutely.
I like the season Fant's having.
You know what? I absolutely am on board with the Fant season here because he's not a full-time lineman that I have to rely on. He comes out there and he is dominating smaller guys playing the tight end position. Mm-hmm. I don't even care if it's a tell when he's out on the field. It's a lot like, that's fine. You still just smash it down their throat. It's a lot like the play that they run where they stack two receivers like as far over towards the sideline as they can, and two on each side, just to spread out the defense, and then they run it every single time.
Yeah, that's their run formation
every single time, but it's effective. So
because if any of those corners start cheating in, you can read that and then try and beat them down the field. But
either that or throw a quick smoke route, anything,
We're going to see a pass to George Fant. We are.
I second that, and I'm going to go out on a limb and say it'll be for a touchdown.
Ooh.
I think it's going to be a goal line situation.
That's the time you break that out.
Where Pete Carroll and Schottenheimer can't get out of their own way and just run the damn ball, and they're gonna throw a touchdown pass to George Fant.
As long as it works,
I guess.
It's going to have to be the right situation because I don't think you're going to do that on a third down.
Maybe that's the time you do it.
Maybe.
See, this is how you outthink yourself as an offensive play caller.
What do you say we welcome some new people to the flock?
I'm totally down to do that. I didn't know if we had gotten skunked this week or not, so this makes me really happy.
Well, we got skunked on new flockers, so we actually aren't welcoming anybody to the flock.
Well, then why would you even set it up that way? Get my hopes up and then dash them? I've had this happen way too much to me in life lately, like over the last couple of weeks. Like, I don't need it from you, too. Yeah.
Well, we do have some people to thank for raises.
All right. That's a salve that will get me past my wound here.
Including a Hokra cleansing. David Van Cleve went from 12-12 up to 2018, which is it puts him in the. We need to cleanse David and Camus's Hokra.
Oh, okay.
And I think he needs it too because one of the things we talked about Tyrell Williams last week, and the fact that he went to Western Oregon University.
And the fake nowhere Oregon University.
Yeah. Well, David in Camus says Adam wins. I went to Western Oregon State College, which is now Western Oregon University, for 1 year. He said, Brandon, to be fair, I don't think I've ever heard any media personality talk about Western Oregon before.
There we go. Well, at least for the first. And I'm glad we got confirmation of that because I was starting to think maybe Western Oregon was like an internet scam of some kind or something along those lines. I was concerned. Like maybe, yeah.
I'm still questionable. I mean,
there's people that run fake universities, it turns out.
Well, yeah. Well, and the fact that David said he went there for 1 year and that it's not even called Oregon State College anymore, which is what it was called when he was there.
Right.
I don't know. But David needs a Hawker cleansing.
Okay. So next week we'll prepare. We got to prepare.
Oh, we're not just going to wing it?
No, Hawker cleansings are serious, man. I mean, if you get up, if you have taken and given us a raise to that level and it's time for a Hawker cleansing, then we need to
put some time in
for rules. Yeah.
I just worry that going into the game against the Rams.
Oh, so there's a timing issue here for you?
Well, what if it's too late? What if David's the Hawker that needs to be cleansed to get the win this week?
Don't put this kind of boogeyman juju on me. I don't know.
I mean, he did just out himself as a former Western Oregon alum, and the fact that he and
I don't
Tyrell...
even know you can say alum, attendee, because it doesn't sound like he graduated.
You can't be an alum just by going there for 1 year?
I don't think so. I don't think that's how that works.
No, I thought that's
exactly how it worked.
An alumni
is somebody who graduated.
A graduate's somebody who graduated.
No, that's an alumni and also a graduate. I don't think you can be an alumni for showed up for classes for a week and then quitting. Unless you're really trying to stretch something out on a resume.
David, I'm a little bit concerned about you. I think we do the Hawker cleansing right now.
Okay.
Because this is the fact that you went to the same school that Tyrell Williams, where he set foot on that same campus as you, and the Chargers come out and get a win. Now, Williams didn't have a great game, but David, we need to separate your Hawkra from Western Oregon and bring it back to Washington. Feel yourself letting go of that connection to Western Oregon, bringing your Hawkra back into alignment into Western Washington and close to the Seattle area. And I know from Camas it's hard. You're close, but we need to bring you back in.
Yes, this Hawker needs to be realigned from the improper southern position that it's in down there in Oregon and to rise up and bring it back to the north and be completely aligned with the four corners of the clink. I think David needs to visualize this and move his Hawker spirit across state lines. I don't know that he has much allegiance for Western Oregon, wherever, but he's got to forget that ever existed. Forget the connection he ever had with Tyrell Williams. Just bring it on back.
You're now, David, back with the Hawks. One with the Hawk. Your Hawker is aligned.
Is it weird that I duck every time I hear that?
No, I picture everybody ducking.
Oh, okay.
It's a scary bird sound.
Yeah, it's a scary hawk sound, man. If you've ever had that done to you in the wild, you duck.
But that's how you're getting out the bad energy as when you flinch like that.
Oh, there it is. See, I didn't know. Now I mean,
that's why the
now
Hawks
we have the maneuver.
That's why the Hawks part of the ceremony.
All right. Well, hopefully David feels better.
I hope so too. We also got a raise from Jeff Godfrey, up from 3 to 5. So thank you, Jeff.
Awesome. I appreciate that, Jeff. You obviously your Hawker's in the right place, so we don't have to worry about you.
I mean, until we do, you got to let us know.
Then we will. Yeah.
We did get some other emails on Western Oregon, Adam.
This is a conspiracy.
Mike in Portland says, I just listened to this week's pod. Thanks for getting it out, even though you guys have things like families and real jobs that take your time. On the pod, you asked if Western Oregon University was a real school. I can tell you it does exist. I didn't go there myself. I went to Portland State for undergrad and Portland State and Washington State University for graduate school. But my sister and brother-in-law went to Western Oregon. See, this feels like a situation where it's like, oh yeah, my girlfriend from Canada, she went to Western Oregon University. I once knew this dude who camped out in the Cascades and he totally saw Sasquatch. Mike says, he saw it, man. And I believe him.
I don't know. Here's why I'm having a hard time believing is he also went to Portland State, right? Uh-huh. Which is a poorly named school in and of itself. It's another terrible
Portland's not
school.
a state.
Exactly. You can't be Portland State University. You can't.
Yeah.
It's like being dog cat university. You can't be two things that aren't the same thing.
Mike goes on to say, it's a community college school outside of Salem, Oregon. It's in a small town that used to be a dry town that didn't allow alcohol for many years. Not sure why anybody would want to live in a town that didn't allow booze. You get there from Portland by heading south to Salem, hanging a right, driving past some random cows and stuff. Then a small college suddenly pops out of nowhere. This is like Sasquatch. The school is mostly known for its teacher prep programs, not its football. I teach at high school that sometimes sends football players to Western. It's mostly guys who are pretty decent by high school standards, but want to keep playing, but not actually really good enough to make it at the college level. Go Hawks.
Go Hawks. It still sounds like it might be Atlantis. Yeah.
I'm not completely sold.
I might be a Western Oregon truther. Like I don't think it exists. I'm not convinced.
Prove it. Yeah. We did have somebody from Central Washington University say that they actually played Western Oregon in football routinely.
Yeah, they're part of the fake college Illuminati. I've never even heard of Central Washington either. And I drive through there all the time.
And this is a comment I know is fake from Niles Orgel. Says, hey guys, I'm listening to your show from Germany, and I applied to school at Western Oregon, just couldn't afford the international tuition. So do better.
They make you pay to go to Western Oregon? I thought they might probably paid the student to come there.
I think that's all part of the smoke screen. Is like they have super high international tuition.
Right. So nobody actually comes to visit or enroll.
They're like, oh my gosh, I guess I better go to UCLA instead of Western Oregon because
that's a really good point. It's a really good point by you. Yeah, I'm in denial, man. I don't think it's there.
Western Oregon truthers.
Yeah.
Nathan Dullaba emails in, says, hi Brandon. Just thought of something I didn't mention in the previous email. Didn't you guys say you were giving away a Pete Carroll signed mini helmet when you got to 300 flockers on Patreon? You might have already, and I just don't remember, but I was just wondering. Thanks.
You know, we need people to keep us on our toes. I mean, because I feel like we said something like that.
Yeah, we absolutely said something like that.
Okay. Did we give one away?
No, we totally forgot. But you know what?
Then let's do that.
It is the midpoint of the season, so maybe it's time to do that.
I think so. How are we going to determine who gets the mini helmet?
Let's see what Siri says. Hey Siri, pick a number between 1 and 337.
The answer is 172.
That cracks me up. You ask pick a number, and she comes back. The answer is 172.
It is the answer.
It wasn't a question, Siri. It was a demand. Okay.
And at number 172 on the spreadsheet, Peter Weiler.
Well, hooray!
From Marysville.
All right. That sounds like a real place.
Isn't that the name of the dude that was RoboCop?
Possibly. I never was a big RoboCop guy. I never got into that movie. I maybe watched it once when I was young.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, well, no, that's Peter Weller.
Oh, okay.
So maybe he changed one of his L's to an I just to kind of be under the radar.
Incognito?
So he wouldn't know that RoboCop listens to the show.
That's exactly right. All right. Well, that helmet's going to be a little small for RoboCop's head, but maybe he can find a place in his Robo house to keep it.
So there you go, Peter. Congratulations.
That was pretty good. I guess the answer was Peter. That's when we found out.
Maybe I did that wrong. I need to say, hey Siri, who's the little flocker that wins the Pete Carroll mini helmet?
Maybe. I don't know. I just think Siri doesn't understand. I think there's a thing about Siri where she's like a little too independent. Like she seems to think like she's a real person sometimes, and she'll get like snippy with you. And like, no, I made a demand. Just do the demand.
Do the thing.
Don't come back to me like I asked you this question out of the kindness of my heart. Well, the answer is 172. Shut up, Siri.
Well, Adam, let's get into do better and better at life. And before we get there, I just want to say to Matt and his thoughts and predictions, and to Sam, who also sent in some bold predictions.
Mm-hmm.
If you get even close, I'll read some of them.
Okay. Perfect. So you're not putting it out there in the ether to begin with, so everybody knows, like, we're not making it up after the fact, like Western Oregon?
Well, Matt was a little bit late getting in his thoughts and predictions last week, so we weren't able to get it into the show. And so if he nailed some of these, I was totally going to read it on the post-game show.
But not so much?
But it was just too far off. Although I think he did say Jerron Brown gets a TD catch.
Oh, okay.
So
yeah, we didn't really talk about the touchdown dance.
That was pretty solid.
That was on point.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know how that wasn't my better life.
Those guys could be Bruno Mars backup dancers.
What did Doug Baldwin say that it was? It was the fourth heart or something like that. It was something about I don't know. I didn't understand the reference.
The 5 seasons?
Five beating hearts. And Mike Dugar asked him if Russell Wilson could be the fifth heart, and he said no.
That's fair.
Yeah.
No room for Russell's heart.
No.
He's wholeheartly left out.
I guess it's just a receiver thing. They've been on point with the touchdown celebrations so far this year. They had the Nolan Ryan.
That one was okay.
They had the drum line.
I like the drum line.
And then this last one.
Yeah, this one was, the choreography was tip top.
Yeah. I don't know if you top that.
I'm looking forward to seeing the 3 or 4 different ones they have on tap for this Rams game.
There we go.
Yeah.
That should be enough motivation to get in the end zone on its own.
Yes. Totally.
Man, if David Moore catches that touchdown, what do they they're probably so concerned with going for 2, maybe they don't celebrate in that situation.
Right. Yeah, probably.
You know, I do want to say that now that I've gone back and I saw the tip and how late it happened, Dave Moore wasn't catching that.
No, that's a big ask.
Yeah. Even if it does hit him in the hands like it did, I think I've heard from enough receivers who said, yeah, you're not catching that.
Totally agree.
Yeah.
Completely agree. Quick, though, about celebrations. What'd you think of Michael Thomas's celebration?
Oh, the Joe Horn throwback?
Yes.
Yeah. That's pretty solid.
That was great. I've heard some people not like it.
What?
Yeah.
Oh.
I think it was Vic and Cowherd talking about it, and one question that was brought up is like, how long has that cell phone been there? Like, at what point in the year do you hide that there? Is it before each game and you go back? Like, if you didn't score, do you have to like sulk back to the stadium and like unhide your props, or do they like stay there for weeks?
That's a good question.
I want to know.
Okay. That piece of information would change how I feel about it. Because if they just put it there before the game, that was the first time, and they made it happen, then it's cool. But if they've been doing that all season, like waiting for that moment. It's been there
for like 6 games?
Yeah.
Like just hiding in there?
You got to go back and get it, and then go put it back later. Then it kind of feels dumb.
Or could you just leave it there? Can it just stay there in perpetuity?
I mean, who's checking, right?
Yeah, I don't know that the pads come off the goalpost with regularity, do they?
I don't know. That I don't know.
Lots of questions.
Especially in the dome. If it were outdoors, maybe you bring them in so the weather doesn't impact them.
Well, I don't think the thing works.
No. I mean the padding around the goalpost.
Oh, the pads themselves. You're worried about them weathering and turning color in the sun or whatever.
Right.
Maybe. I don't know.
But since it's indoors, it probably doesn't matter.
Well, I enjoyed it. I liked the throwback. Some people didn't think that it was pointed towards Joe Horn. I was like, are you kidding me? Like, yeah, that's exactly what that was. That was
a former Saints receiver.
Yes.
Of course.
Yeah. I think it was in the same end zone, too.
That would be like if a 49ers receiver did a celebration involving popcorn.
What did I see this last week? Somebody stood on the star in Dallas after an interception. One of the Titans did.
Yeah.
And one of my honorary do-betters would be for the cowboy that like ran up there and then like just kind of gently nudged.
No, you got to go full George Teague and knock his ass on his butt.
That's exactly right. That's exactly right. If you're that Titans DB, you know what you did. You're going to the star there and doing that.
Yeah.
And whoever that Cowboys player was, you got to lay his ass out. You start a GoFundMe for the fine.
Have multiple dudes from the Cowboys lining up to take a shot. Like it should be a race to see who puts him down.
You know what? With Dak Prescott being under as much fire as he is right now, he should have gone and laid him out.
That would have been legendary.
Yes.
It brings me to my do better, because my do better is for another Cowboys quarterback, Troy Aikman.
People don't like Troy.
He's been having a tough time. Well, for one, he thinks that the Cowboys need to do like complete overhaul, which I don't know if he understands what complete overhaul means. Like, the defense is coming online, I think, for the Cowboys. They're pieces away. Complete overhaul is pretty drastic, but I think it speaks to this idea of how Aikman, he might be losing a little bit, dude. Like, watching the broadcast between the Raiders and the 49ers. Mm-hmm. Did you see this? Where Aikman said he's continuing to perpetuate this lingering myth that Tom Cable is one of the league's best offensive line coaches. Like, he still believes that. Still.
Right. Yeah.
And you look at the Raiders and their offensive line. Do you need any more proof after Tom Cable spent all the time here in Seattle? And it's this idea that he thinks that Seattle didn't give him the talent.
Right.
Didn't give him the talent.
He made some sliding, snarky comment about how they would just give him defensive players to turn into offensive linemen. No. He chose defensive linemen to come and play offensive line. That was Tom Cable's input.
And one of those guys is still on the field, J.R. Swayze, one of his biggest success stories.
Right.
So, and just this idea that they only took late round linemen. No, they didn't. They took Justin Britt in the second round. They took Jermaine Ifedi in the first round. They took James Carpenter in the first round. You had Reese Odiombo in the third round, and you had John Moffitt in the third round. Those were all Tom Cable dudes.
Yeah, and then they have quite a bit of talent there in Oakland on that offensive line. Some really accomplished players. And that thing's a dumpster fire now.
Yeah.
He's just set it ablaze.
Right. And
he's still one of the greats.
Some of that is injuries, but they drafted a dude.
Yeah.
And their backups aren't any better. If you're a good coach, you should be able to fill in a guy behind a Simile and still like have Derek Carr not die week to week.
Yeah, can you name how anybody that the Patriots have like gone out and signed or drafted to play on their offensive line? Have you ever been worried when a Patriots lineman goes out like during a game? Like just another dude comes in and just performs at A+ level. That's what a great old offensive line coach looks like.
Lose Nate Solder like to the Giants? Yeah. Doesn't matter.
Don't make no never mind. Like, yeah, this is, you get to this point to where Tom Cable comes down to Oakland now and completely dismantles that thing. And the backups come in and look like even bigger dumpster fires than the starters who are clinging to the last little bit of coaching they got from their former coach. Like, man alive. Yeah. Troy, man.
So for Troy Aikman, continuing to perpetuate this idea that Tom Cable is somehow a stellar. I'm willing to accept that he's a good O-line coach, but that he's one of the tops in the leagues. Come on, Troy, do better.
I don't even know if I can call him a good offensive line coach anymore. He's below average.
Right?
He shows up to work every day.
With the evidence. Okay. I feel like that's like the low bar.
Grading on attendance. Yeah. All right, man. Might do better this week for the freaking city of Missoula. I don't understand who makes these decisions in this town, but they take some of the simplest things in life and make them unbelievably freaking complicated. It's stupid. Like I had to go to the courthouse the other day and register my camper, and I've got a little flatbed trailer that I use to like haul wood around and stuff, right? And this should be, I don't know, like a hour-long ordeal at best, and it should be pretty simple. There's simple things along the way that you usually need to do to get this done. And first thing is to park your car. And to park your car downtown, somebody in their infinite freaking wisdom took out the meters, like the regular just put in a quarter, turn the dealie, walk away. Yeah, I mean, the simplest system in the world. I want to park for 2 hours. Put in 3 quarters, turn the dealie, walk away. Like, it doesn't get any easier. No. Now, you don't do that anymore. You park, and there's not a dealie in front of each parking spot. You got to find which kiosk is related to your parking area. And then once you get there, there's like a 96 question process that you have to go through to buy freaking parking on the street there. Like you gotta put in your license plate number. Good luck remembering that. I don't know who the hell remembers their license plate number, but I surely don't. So I'm sitting there on my way to the freaking kiosk, like repeating the numbers in my mind, hoping that by question 46, I still remember what my catfish license plate number is. Like basically it asks you a million freaking questions about your life, makes you give a DNA sample, and then you got to pay with a card. Then you pay with a card, and because it's, I don't know, hooked to backwoods.net internet service, takes it 40 hours to freaking process. So first I'm over having to launch a space shuttle to park my car in Missoula. That's freaking stupid. So then I get into the courthouse.
Oh, there's more? I thought you were just railing on parking.
No, this is why, this has been a problem for me for a while. And then now you go into the courthouse, and it used to be a simple system. There was a number, you would take the number, and then you sit down, and then when they called your number, you went up to the window. It was very freaking simple. This is easy. It didn't need to be improved on. It worked flawlessly. Now what you have to do, I walk in there, and I'm looking around for the number thingy.
Yeah.
And I was like, where's the number thingy? She goes, oh, you gotta sign in over here now. And she points, and now there's a wall of freaking tablets. I'm like, oh, great. Another screen that I get to screw with here. And you get in there, and none of the touchscreens don't work worth a damn. And it's asking you way more information than it needs about you and your life. How many kids you've had, your last 3 ex-girlfriends. It's an invasion of privacy. Makes it unbelievably complicated for no damn reason. I don't need another thing I have to do on my phone or a touchscreen. I don't need it in my life. I have enough of that crap already. So for the city of Missoula, for taking simple catfish and making it hard catfish, do better.
I'm with you on the tablets thing. Like my kids, whenever they go to the dentist, after a year, you have to re-input all their information. And you'd think that they could just tie it all together. But I have to enter in my address, and all the contact information for every single one of them. Technology is supposed to make things easier.
Right.
You can, the way databases work, you should be able to link all that stuff together. And so you just say, yeah, that's my kid. And they have all the contact information still the same.
Well, the government doesn't do that for anything that would make your life easier. That's just to spy on you and stuff. It's keep all that data, and have complex algorithms to sort through that. Can't be done to make your life better. That's the thing. It's you have to enter all that information into another freaking database. I don't need to enter any more of my information in any more databases. I don't. There's enough out there already.
On to Better at Life.
All right, man. I'm excited about my Better at Life this week.
Oh, are you?
Yes. Because it involves space and pirates.
Space pirates.
But not space pirates.
Dang it. You got me excited.
I know. Space and pirates. So SpaceX is going to have a launch here where they're going to launch 71 different satellites into space. And one of the users of this launch, it's a collaborative launch. So there's a bunch of different companies that are all putting their satellites on this one rocket, kind of like a rideshare. It's splitting the cost of the fare on a cab. They're doing it with a rocket this time, though. And one of the companies is a startup called Hawkeye 360. And they've got a cool little thing that they're doing. They've got 3 satellites that they're sending up there that they're calling the Pathfinder Network. And what this thing does is it looks for radio signals of ships at sea to try to find what they call, quote unquote, dark ships. And they're the ones that turn off their GPS because they're out there doing nefarious crap. So now with their little satellite, they can track pirates from space.
Wow.
And I think that's pretty cool. So to Hawkeye 360, you are better at life than Skip Bayless. Get them pirates.
Dirty pirates.
Yeah. Pirate hunting from space.
Space Force.
Space Force, which is a good idea. The Space Force is a good idea.
I like it. I mean, I'm a fan of Star Trek.
Take my word for it. Listen to Neil deGrasse Tyson talk about it, okay? And then come back to me.
Absolutely.
I just want there to be Space Force uniforms.
Yes, that needs to happen.
I'm looking forward to that.
My Better at Life this week is for Chris Carson. And a great article by Mike Varell, Seattle Times. And what Chris Carson's doing, he met this week with a group in Seattle and kind of announced just how he wants to fight homelessness in Seattle and why it's so important to him. And Mike's story about Chris Carson telling the story of how he was at home for Christmas vacation from when he was going to, and I didn't know this. I didn't know Chris Carson went to community college, but he was a freshman at Butler Community College initially. And before he went to Oklahoma State, and he was at home on the couch, and it was a spark from their a faulty circuit breaker box outside of their house. Carson's stepdad, he heard some glass breaking, so he got out of bed, opened his door, and Chris was standing there and was about to tell him that there was a fire downstairs. Well, they tried their best to get it out. They end up, giving up and having to go across the street, and just kind of the story about how they had to watch their house essentially burn down, and how that has stuck with him. And now a big reason why that feeling, that hopelessness, that helpless feeling that he had through that experience, he empathizes with so many people in the Seattle area and with the homeless situation there. So he's making it a point to continue to fight that. And another great point in this article that it made was just at how much of a fighter Chris Carson is, like throughout his entire football career. Goes back and how he talks about how he had a torn ACL in his senior year of high school. That didn't stop him. Hairline fracture in his forearms a few years earlier didn't stop him. Torn ligament in his thumb during his senior year at Oklahoma State. A broken leg in his rookie season with the Seahawks. And how he's so physically and mentally tough that he continues to fight through all these situations. And you talk about the kind of grit that the Seahawks look for. That's what's really embodied with a guy like Chris Carson. And so for Chris, with his continued efforts to fight through tough situations, and for trying to help tackle the homeless problem in the Seattle area, Chris Carson, better at life than Skip Bayless.
Yeah, it's funny you talk about his perseverance through all the injuries, right?
Yeah.
And what's keeping him on the sideline now is like the most old maniest injury ever. It's like, oh, my hip.
My hip.
A tough dude, but somehow, has a 75-year-old injury.
Yeah.
That he can't play through. But his focus on homelessness is really great, and it's definitely a large problem in Seattle. Just as an outsider who visits the city now and then, it's apparent, and it needs to be dealt with. And it's one of those things that people are either A, uncomfortable talking about, B, don't care, or C, they don't want to pay any money to try to address the problem. And maybe somebody like Chris Carson putting his attention towards it will actually make a difference.
Yeah, and this Roots organization that he came and spoke at this week, that they were able to raise $53,000 toward it.
Nice.
So
I would think you could build like 5 tiny houses for that.
You probably could get some people out of tents.
That's what I'm thinking.
All right, man. Well, I think that does it for this week's show.
Yeah, I think so. And
probably no pick show this week.
No pick show this week. But you don't need our picks this week.
No, we haven't been doing well.
Well, last week I didn't know, but the week before it was money. So I don't know.
Well, no money. You might be due for money picks this week, Adam.
It feels like I'm due. That's for sure.
And with that,
there's only one thing left to say.
Go Hawks.
Go Hawks.
Catfish!
The stupid Rams.
Catfish!
The Rams.